What's up, guys? My name is Chimoge. This is Chimoge's Comments, and I just wanted to say that the Barbie movie was terrible. So I saw it about a month ago, a few weeks, probably up to a month, and I went in there because nothing that Hollywood makes is like, I mean, what do I want to say nothing's perfect, but that's like an insult to perfect. It's like nothing they make doesn't have something in it that just makes me want to throw up. I mean, something racist, just something that's just kind of anti-life. There's always something going on in there. And the more you know, the less you like that stuff. And I'm just like, man, if Nollywood could get their act together more, they're getting better, but there's still some things with Nollywood. But anyway, I Nollywood is better than Hollywood now anyway. Um, maybe it always was, but that's debatable. They had other issues. Um, anyway, I know those of you who live in Nigeria are gonna curse me for being some sort of bougie living abroad person for hating on Nollywood, but I will stand on that opinion. Anyway, shout out to all my Nollywood folks. We're gonna get there, and we're better than these Hollywood folks. But anyway, um, what was I even talking about? Barbie movie, Hollywood, right? Anyway, most of the American movies I see are trash anyway, but a good amount of them they could be entertaining and just at least leave me with a more pleasant feeling than not. So that's kind of what I expected out of the Barbie movie. Um, oh, is that what I expected? Am I lying? Well, I guess what I really want to say is that movie disgusted me way more than I expected. I went in expecting maybe it'll be mixed, but it'll annoy me a lot. I went out just like, what did I watch? I just felt like I just watched American Dad. Like for those of you who've watched American Dad, first, sorry. But second, like if you're not familiar with that show, that's just a show that's on. And sometimes as a kid, I would be just bored at home. And I'm 25, so I do know what it was like before. Everyone had Netflix and all the streaming services were about, right? So sometimes you did have to just watch TV, right? And sometimes there's nothing on in the middle of the day. For some reason, I have to be home. Um, and then I'm flipping through. There's nothing on. I'm watching American Dad, and I'm just like, this is an abomination. Why is this show on? Who watches this? And after you watch American Dad, you just feel disgusted, right? That's the kind of disgust I felt after watching the Barbie movie. Cause like, just nah. Cause my thing is just like, what I literally went out of there and I was like, what did I just watch, right? Because first of all, right, and there are gonna be spoilers in this, so spoiler alert. So first of all, the basic plot of the movie is that Barbie, who's played by Margot Robbie, lives in Barbie Land, which is basically some feminist utopia where there's only like one black person whose name I remember. Actually, I don't remember her name. I just remember she was Issa Rae. Um, and then people never age, and then the Kens are around, right? All the women are named Barbie, and although Margot Robbie's Barbie's like the most Barbie, I don't know. Oh, that's kind of vague. And then all the men are named Ken, but then is that guy's name Ryan Gosling or is it the other one? It's Ryan Gosling, and there's this other white actor I always confuse him with. Like, is Ryan Gosling the one who plays Deadpool? It's not him, it's the other one. Whatever his name is. This the main white guy. He's the most Ken, right? So anyway, the Barbies rule. The Kens are like oppressed, but the movie treats that like it's cool, basically, kind of. It's like okay, so that's the feminist utopia, which I'll get into all the issues with that. But then, sorry, I gotta scratch my nose. I need to eat more. By the way, if you itch a lot, you gotta eat more because that's just hunger. Your body's just eating itself. But anyway, right? So then she lives in a feminist utopia, but one day she starts aging. So she's like, why is this happening? And then she goes to Weird Barbie, who's played by Kate McKinnon. And that's kind of a parody, but like they still kind of framed her as weird just because she's clearly like just not your classical feminine woman. what wasn't straight, whatever. But anyway, they made that decision. So weird Barbie tells her that someone's playing with her rough in the real world. So then Barbie goes to the real world, and then Ken, um, just call him Ryan Gosling. I don't remember which one it is, but Ryan Gosling. Jeez. Problem is, I have my phone here, and then getting out my laptop to look it up will take a lot of time. But whatever. The let's just say Ken, the real Ken, who's also white. That's also another problem. All the real characters were white. My God. And then actually, I'm gonna get to it. Ken's main enemy was another Ken who's Asian, played by that guy Simu Liu. Sorry, it's just funny how these Hollywood white people try and act so woke. The racism is just so blatant. Ooh, 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 ooh. I think there was a black Ken, but he was a side character big time. He was a side character big time. Anyway, oh, then they'll get away with it by saying, "Oh, we're making a commentary on racism in the real world." A commentary on racism by doing more racism. Okay, I think you're just being racist. I'm sorry, the hypocrisy is funny. But anyway, so Barbie and Ken go to the real world, and the real world is supposed to be this real world. It looks like it, although in that world, men just rule, and it's like, geez, I know all the, I know all the like hardcore. I don't even know what you want to call it. Hardcore, maybe basic feminists. Let's call it that, because feminism is a very complicated. Is it feminism an ideology? Let's just say it's a very complicated thing. Right, I'm gonna make a video on the future breaking that down. But anyway, point I'm making is not all feminists are like your stereotypical. It's just a very complicated thing. But let's say your stereotypical feminist would just say men rule the world. That's it. But it's just more complicated than that. But anyway, that's the world that's presented. So Barbie hates it. Ken loves it, even though Ken can't get a job because he didn't go to school, which undercuts the whole men rule the world no matter what thing. And that's before you even get to just like how white people created feminism, and that brand even like conceived of what it means to rule the world, what it means to be on top. Just a lot of flawed ideas on top of each other. But anyway, and then Barbie also meets America Ferrera, who becomes her Hispanic sidekick, and has a daughter, and it's her daughter who was playing with her rough. Or actually, it was kind of vague. It was kind of both of them, because like America Ferrera was drawing um doodles of Barbie that involved thoughts of self-harm, um and that caused Barbie to think of her life ending. But then also the kid was playing with Barbie rough something, or like ditched her. Anyway, both of them together mess Barbie up, so they become kind of her Hispanic sidekicks. Then Barbie sees the executives at Mattel, who's ironically just a room full of white men. They tell her to just go back to Barbie Land, but she's like, nah, because she thought that Barbie and Barbie Land had fixed the real world for women, but it hadn't. So she runs back, and she finds Ken, who'd gone back before her, imported the patriarchy into I'll just call it the patriarch, because even geez, that's another complicated concept. Like, um, geez, because all this stuff people just say like it's a fact is actually very complicated. Like, all I'll say is this, because I don't want this video to go on for 2 hours and get into the nature, gender, of feminism. But basically, women definitely get discriminated against in a lot of sectors, but it's debatable whether or not the thing that is doing that can accurately be called patriarchy. But that's another thing. Anyway, let's just say the patriarchy. Ken imports that, and even what he imports doesn't look like what's in the real world, because it's just some Disneyland version of it. He imports that back into Barbie land, oppresses all the Barbies. They're hypnotized. But then, um, Margot Robbie, normal white Barbie, is defeated, gives up, and also the sub. Is it even a subplot? Maybe it's just like the other plot is that Ken wants Barbie. Barbie doesn't really want him like that. So then, Ken gets back at Barbie for hurting his feelings by being a jerk. Sorry, notification. So then anyway, what happens is that Margot Robbie Barbie wants to give up, but then her Hispanic sidekick is like, no, we have to fight this. And then they go to Weird Barbie, and long story short, they stage a revolution. They return Barbie Land to how it was after um seducing the Kens and then breaking their hearts, which causes the Kens to fight among themselves. That's a very feminist and pro woman plot line, isn't it? I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know what they were drinking or smoking when they came up with the plot. And then I don't know how they managed to convince so many people this is a feminist movie. I'm not even a feminist. I don't even agree with feminism. Although I know Jesus, people don't even understand feminism. Understand? People are so ignorant. I say I don't agree with feminists. You, I want to go back to like Mad Men. Oh, whatever. Reasonable people will know what I mean, or at least they'll know what I don't mean. Um. Anyway, but long story short, even if you're a hardcore feminist, and I guess I don't know, I haven't seen too many other critiques of this to be fair of the movie or reviews, so maybe a lot of hardcore feminists have been slamming it. I saw some people going at the racism a little bit, at least from like thumbnails, but I haven't watched anything. Maybe after this I'll watch some. If you guys have any reviews you think I find interesting or whatever, or at least let me know what other people are saying. Let me know in the comments. But anyway, um basically, if you're not a feminist, I don't know how you're happy with the plot of this movie. If you're a feminist, I don't know how you're happy with the plot of this movie. I think the only people who be happy with the plot of this movie are just people who just want society to change. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hey. Um. Anyway, so long story short, after seducing the Kens and breaking their hearts, the Kens fight among themselves and have like a kind of erotic battle where after a while it's like, are they going to date each other, if you know what I mean, or are they actually gonna fight? It was kind of a weird thing. But then after that, order in Barbie Land is restored, and as another subplot, the um what is it? The executives at Mattel came into Barbie Land, and the lead executive is Will Ferrell. I guess he was funny. It's just there's so much other weird stuff going on in the movie. I didn't really laugh. Um, I just kind of looked at it with this exact face I have now. Just like what am I watching? Um, then it will in the end, Barbie Land's basically the same, except they give the Kens a few more rights, and then Barbie rejects Ken, but I guess nicer this time. Then she goes back to the real world because she's tired of Barbie Land, and she goes to get an exam with a gynecologist. Because another running joke is that the people in Barbie Land do not have reproductive organs, right? And that's how the movie ends. So anyway, there's the plot. My problems with it are, one, didn't properly Because first of all, where do I even begin? Okay, first of all, jeez, I'm just thinking, where do I even begin with this? So first of all, I was not a fan of Barbie Land because I think it just created a boogeyman that doesn't exist, right? And like, to be clear, I don't think you can draw a one-to-one analogy between gender and race. People do that all the time, right? So, I'm just making this is a crude comparison. So I'm just making it so you kind of get where I'm coming from, but just realize on a deeper level it's different. But making a fake in the world we live in now, making a fake world in which women basically oppress men, that would be like making a fake world in which, and again, this is a very crude comparison. I'm just trying to get y'all to understand this in a couple seconds. It's like making a fake world in which black people oppress white people. Like, why? 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 Like, it doesn't exist. And in the case of the gender, it actually cannot exist because I'll break this down in the future, but it's not possible for one gender to oppress another and then for a population to like even reproduce itself for one generation. It just it's not possible. It's not possible. Like a society can only function long term. By long term, I mean like beyond one generation. Like say they say a generation is about 30 years. Let's just use that, right? From the time you give birth to the first of that generation, give it 30 years. If you want to survive past that, genders have to collaborate. Otherwise, y'all are dead, right? So it just no. Um so I'm just like, why? Cuz all you're doing, one, I don't know, I mean, what percent of women even feel good seeing that? I'm not sure. Like, is that their dream? No. I mean, the minority who felt good seeing that. I mean, even then, you'd have to kind of divide them into camps. Women who just like that you're at least on the surface trying to hype them up, but if they got into details, they're like, "That's not my dream," so they don't feel that good about it. And women who feel completely good about seeing that, who are just, with all due respect, just sociopaths, just kind of evil people, or at least people who are sick. And we could get into a debate about whether or not there's a difference. But anyway, so you got that, and then obviously men won't feel good seeing that, for the most part. But then to like a lot of these men who just hate women out here is just the perfect excuse they need to harden in their beliefs, go harder. I've seen a lot of conservatives making reactions saying they hate the Barbie movie, and I'm like, I agree, but I know you're coming from it from a different place, so I don't click the video because I don't want to hear your crap. And then I'm sure all them manosphere people um have just been obsessing with it for the last month. So it just why even create that? Why? I don't like, because any artist has a responsibility to the world they put their art out into, and given how the world is, I don't even think creating that scenario is responsible, to be honest. At least it's very risky, right? If you're gonna do it, everything else has to land, right? And that didn't happen in this movie because the other thing about creating that fake scenario where the women oppress the men is that the movie was like saying that's okay, and it's like, what? No, just no, that is just nonsense. If you if you think this current world order, where, and I'll get into this a bit, but for now let's just say where the men oppress the women is bad, why would it be okay for the exact opposite to happen? Like, that would just mean you just hate men. That doesn't make any sense. This nonsense. So that was just nonsense. Um, then of course, so you have that. I didn't like that. Then the representation of the real world I didn't like because it it was beyond this third issue I'm gonna get into, right? Because I'm gonna really leave it at the three big things I don't like. Because if I were to, I mean, I could go on this movie for like days, and it's one of those things. The more you look at it, the worse it is. Um, but yeah, but then in the real world, sure, right? You have. I didn't even begin to talk about these things. People have the language, but anyway, you have. They showed a lot of men in positions of power. Um, I'm sorry, just is being a housewife not a position of power? Like, just even when you think about it at a conceptual level, you need other terms. Um, but let's say that the men were in positions of power within institutions, but it is okay. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, let's just go with positions of power because I'm just thinking about it like that. Even that term, it might be kind of flawed, but at least I think we could get there using that term because I've used it before and it hasn't bothered me. It's just I started thinking about it now. It's like, what aren't they just different types of power? But anyway, I'm sorry. It just I'm getting real deep in the philosophy here. But anyway, let's just say they showed the men in positions of power, and they did show there was a little nuance in that. Okay, it's not just you're a man and you get whatever you want. Like you have to, for example, they don't give it to people who haven't gone to school, right? So Ken couldn't get a job, right? They did show that, but then overall they just completely oversimplified how it works because basically, without going on for hours and hours, although men have advantages in a bunch of areas, women also have advantages in an equal number of areas, and then men have a lot of disadvantages in certain areas, and women have disadvantages in those in a different set of areas. So all in all, one gender does not have it better than the other. It's just that they get helped or hurt in different sectors, and that's not good, right? This because I don't necessarily think calling it a patriarchal system is uh not accurate. It's just kind of debatable, but let's just for now call it the patriarchal system. Patriarchy is not good. It just destroys human life basically, and I'll get into that in future videos more. But it hurts everyone equally. It just hurts them in different ways. An example of this is, for example, even though women have lower salaries than men, right? Men tend to work longer hours, and when you think of how grueling the workforce is, that means men are being subjected to physical and um, at least a certain type of mental brutality more. And you can see that a lot in, for example, the fact that men, you know, get injured on the job a lot more and they have lower life expectancy, right? So it's very nuanced, but they didn't show any of that in the movie, right? So that's my two big thing. Two big things. The third big thing that I already mentioned before, I'm gonna go on it now more, is just how racist the movie was. Because first of all, this is just like an ignorant white person's view of the world. Like if you just go to the real world, one, I can't remember seeing a black person. The only non-white person we saw was um and you know, I get it, like most Hispanics are technically black, right? They're mixed, but for the sake of just talking to people how they're used to hearing it, I'll just say she's not black. The only non-white person I can remember is America Ferrera and her daughter, those two who were Barbie's Hispanic sidekicks. And even she had a white husband who weirdly she would just make fun of for um not speaking Spanish. So it just kind of showed her as like an aggressive, I don't know, unpleasant woman, but who was but a stupid white husband. But then it's like, why do you have the white husband? If you're annoyed by him trying to speak bad Spanish, and that's all we see you doing, why are you even married to him? Like, there's even a lot in that. Does that mean a crappy white man is better than an average Hispanic? See what I mean? This movie is not woke. Well, it is woke, but it's not like non-racist at all. It just I'm sorry. They always say times have changed. I think it's just people lie more now. Um. Anyway, this did not show racism properly at all. Did not show dynamics between races at all. Even if you want to talk about gender dynamics between races, right? Right. The typical, let's call it mainstream feminist narrative, doesn't even get those dynamics right among white people. But when it goes to people who aren't white, it's just like clearly these people were looking at something else, right? Like, I mean, like who, what reasonable person is gonna look at black men and say, you know what, these people have an unambiguous, like, no contest advantage over black women? As much as we getting thrown in prison and stuff, like, and then even if you want to talk about women working, black women have all work, always have been working. So what is that even? What are you talking about? This doesn't apply. Does not apply at all. So like that wasn't shown in the real world. And then in the fake world, it was basically all white people, and the only black people or non-white people, period. And even not all non-white people are the same. But let's see. The black person I remember the most was Issa Rae, who I guess her character's name was Barbie, but they didn't give her. Yeah, and she was the president in that world, but then like just a side character. And I don't know what. I mean, just didn't was not one of the most. I mean, she was a side character. There was her. Then there was some other. There was a black Ken, and those are the only two black people I remember. Maybe there was a mixed race Barbie, but I don't really remember her. I don't, again, side character. Then the non-white character I remember the most was Asian, and again, right? Asian people obviously are oppressed, not as much as black people, but then he was the bad guy. I mean, because was Ken really a good guy? I don't know. Was anyone a good guy in this movie? I don't know. But definitely he was more of a bad guy than the white Ken. So it was just basically, it was just like some white racist fantasy. So it just, no. Just, so that's the third thing I didn't like. And the fourth thing I didn't like is just how it just promoted anti-social, anti-life gender dynamics. There was no reconciliation between the genders. Barbie and Ken have a completely dysfunctional relationship, and then it's not resolved in a good way. In the end, Barbie's just like, yeah, I was bad to you, I'm sorry, but um I'm not really gonna make up for it. And then on top of that, we're gonna just say Ken was more of a bad guy, even though no, they both look equally toxic, right? Because Barbie just kind of leading Ken on, stringing him on, and then in the end, she just leaves and is like, basically, I don't need a man. And it's like, well, okay, so I mean, you don't need a man. I didn't see you get with a woman. Are you just saying you don't need any relationships at all? And then no one else models a healthy relationship. How can society function, right? Like we didn't even see a healthy parent child dynamic, because all we saw was America Ferrera and her daughter fight. And I don't know if they really made up. It was just ignored in the end. And then America Ferrera is just in a toxic, maybe even abusive relationship with her stupid white husband. And then what other relationship was shown? The only other relationships, romantic relationships I see being shown are when the Barbies are with the Kens, but as part of their plot to seduce them, or before that, when the Kens have the Barbies under mind control. And then I didn't see much healthy friendship modeled, because Barbie and America Ferrera's relationship, maybe you could count that one, but it was eh. That wasn't really a great friendship. I don't know how much they did that was really friendship stuff. They weren't super warm. I didn't see good family. Like it was just like just a bunch of individuals being miserable together. Just that is the biggest reason even. And that says a lot because the first three reasons listed were pretty big reasons. That is the biggest reason even that I just after I was done with the movie, I was like, what did I watch? Like whoever made this movie, they just want society to crumble. No healthy romantic relationships, no healthy family relationships, no healthy friendships, not even healthy working relationships, because all the business relationships shown were toxic. I mean, what are you showing us? And then you don't say anything's wrong with that. I mean, maybe they'll get away with it by saying it was satire, but no. If it was satire, it wasn't clear. You did a bad job. And was it comedy? I wasn't laughing too much. After a while, I was just like, what am I looking at? So, you know, all in all, the Barbie movie was trash. I don't recommend watching it. It's probably just gonna be a lot of negative energy in your head. If you want to watch it, just keep in mind there's some BS there. And yeah, just bottom line, we need to make better movies. If Hollywood won't do it, we should start our own thing. But yeah. Anyway, thank y'all. Once again, I'm Shimoge. This has been another quick comments on Shimoge's comments. I know I've gone on for over 30 minutes, but to me, if I went on for less than about an hour, really less than 50 minutes, I think it was quick. Because I have a lot to say. But anyway, check out my about section. It'll make you happy. It'll make me happy. And have good relationships, folks. All right. Peace.